I could ask everyone two questions. How was your day? And the second question is why? So if you said, well, my day was really, really good. Well, why? Was it because everything was agreeable? It went according to how you wanted it to go? If you say, oh, it wasn't such a good day. Why? Was it because, again, the external circumstances weren't quite the way you wanted them to be? The people you came into contact with weren't the way you wanted them to be? Right? So you're just pointing to that those two questions came to mind. I heard those two questions being asked, and they're very telling, because when we have a bad day, an unhappy day, you could call it, we're relinquishing our control to people and circumstances. Right? We had a bad day because so-and-so did this. So I had a bad day. And then what really gives you then is the opportunity to blame them. I had a bad day because so-and-so did this. Right? Or I had a bad day because, something happened, an event, an external event you had no control over that happened, caused you to have a bad day. So what you've just done is you've relinquished any control to people and events that you have no control over what somebody else is going to do or say, or what event is going to randomly arise for the most part. And same thing with a good day. Somebody says something nice. Oh, I have a good day because so-and-so smiled at me and said I was a good guy, or whatever it might be, right? They could be lying through their teeth. No, you're still giving the power. You're relinquishing the power to other people and circumstances. Your happiness is in their hands rather than within your purview. You could say your control, although it's not really control. It's allowing. Yeah, that just came to mind, Joanna, when you said that we can be happy no matter what the external circumstances, or no matter what people are doing or saying around us. Yeah. There are impulses, right, that arise in us to grasp at what we want, push away what we don't want. So although I say it's the egoic mind, it's actually our the way we're wired in terms of our survival mind. We think we need to control our environment in order to survive. There's something deep biologically, fight or flight or freeze is like hardwired right into us, which is a survival reaction. You have no control over, it just happens, right? You see danger, one of those three things, things start changing in your body, your blood flows to different places to get ready for either flight or fight or freeze. And so we have these impulses that are very natural. So it's not like we're not going to get rid of them. Like you want to not step out in front of a car. You want to, react in that way to not get your hands caught in a saw or something, right? You want to have those survival instincts. And that part of us that grasps and pushes away is all very natural. So we're not trying to get rid of it. It's part of who we are as human beings. But it's not the end of the story. It's not who we are in our deepest sense. It's who we are at our kind of surface, at a surface level of survival. And we will still, it'll never, our egoic ego will never, it's not something, it's ego is not a thing anyway, it's processes. It's never going to go away, and we don't want it to go away. It's just that we can see beyond it, behind it. If we're so, if we are so, if we only live at the level of the egoic reactions, we never get in touch with our deeper essential nature, which is beyond that. So that's all this is. I mean, that's what awakening is. So it's awakening to your true nature beyond all these egoic impulses. Doesn't mean all those egoic impulses go away. You just say, oh, wow, look, there's a thought. Wow, there's a grasping thought. Conditioned. Yeah, that thought's come up a million times in my life, that conditioned reaction. There it is again. Jesus, meditate another 15 years. It'll probably still come up, but it's not your deepest essential nature. I had a short story. I had a dream last night that I was backpacking. And, with backpacking, you carry all the stuff you need. So you want it as light as possible. And Vida was in this dream, my wife, and she said, we need to pick up a few things for meals. And it was a 2-night, 3-day trip. It was all these details are actually in the dream, right? And we need to pick up a few things. Okay. So she goes and she picks up these things. I put my pack on. It's like, oh my God, this is heavy. So I open it up, and there's all these essential items on the top, and I move them out of the way, and there's chocolate and books. 4 books. There was a distinct number, and that's why I remember it was 2 days, because I said, how are you going to read four books in two nights? We're hiking. So I got all angry, and I threw the chocolate on the ground, and it broke into pieces. And then I woke up, of course, when those emotions became part of the dream. And I laid there, and my heart was pounding, and I was upset, and there were emotions flowing through my body, and I actually felt some dislike of my wife who was in the bed beside me. How could you do that? And it all felt that I just sort of sat and felt it all, because I thought, this is very real. I mean, this is as real as if it actually more real, because none of this would actually happen in my life, right? So it's weird how the egoic mind in this being is playing out in my dreams. But I had to actually sit. I don't know how long it took, but it just took me some time. I had to go back to like basic practices of being present for the emotions that were arising, for the body, just all this flow of body sensations, because I had just had the arising of anger and blame and all these deep emotions that I haven't felt come up. And I know might at least taken me a half an hour to an hour just to kind of process all this. And then it was so amazing, because I could see all this cloud, and then slowly I could kind of see my true nature shine through as I just allowed that to flow through. Of course, none of it was a dream. So it was, but your life is just as much a dream in many ways, right? Just letting it flow through, and then slowly true nature could shine through and just be touched into. And then that's the last thing I remember, and I was asleep again. How did I get onto that story? But it seemed relevant when I started. But it's just how we this egoic impulse. It's very real, and it doesn't go away. And we just learn to relate to it in a different way, to engage with this flow, which includes these impulses, these conditioned impulses. Yeah. Although that dream last night was actually a deep teaching for me to experience that. It was I took it as a grace or as an offering in my life, just to be able to experience that. Yeah, we struggle, right, with life because we think we need to. The egoic mind just thinks that's it, and it for the egoic mind to let go of struggle is very well. It takes courage to let go of the struggle, in one sense, and the other thing that you will see is the egoic mind gets very afraid at the idea of letting go of struggling with life because it thinks things will just twirl out of control if it does. And again, there's no it's simply a processes, but sometimes feels like an entity that's thinking, oh, I gotta struggle, and there's a real fear, and you'll maybe even have those thoughts come out into the mind of, oh no, if you don't worry about this, you're going to have some deep shit happen. And he says shit might happen if you don't worry about this all night. Shit's going to happen tomorrow, and you'll have thoughts like that. We've all had those thoughts, and we're all the same in that way. And we can touch our deepest nature at any time. There's no path. You don't have to go anywhere or get anything. We have different levels of cloud cover, I guess you could say, right? Depending on our, call it karmic conditioning, just based on that just means, it's another way of saying based on our, what's transpired in our lives in terms of events and conditioning and so on. Could create more cloud cover, more fear of letting go, right? So if we've experienced a lot of trauma in our lives, there'll be a heightened fear of letting go from the egoic mind because it thinks it really, really must be on high alert all the time. Otherwise, bad things will happen. So that's a lot of cloud cover, right? So it makes it for true nature to shine through that can take some real courage to let go into the flow of life, as you put it, just to let go. And even if we just ease off a little bit in the grasping and pushing away, it can shine through. Yeah. Thanks for that. Could everybody hear that at the other end on Zoom? Could hear what she said? Yeah.
Also, not.
Yeah, this is where the computer's actually better at picking up. I'll switch to the computer mic for. It might not sound as good when I speak now, but it will probably sound better when the group speaks. Yeah, there's microphones all inside the keyboard here, so it tends to pick up all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Stephen, I was wondering, that poem by Rumi, I quite liked it. And I was wondering if there's some way you can post it or send it out, or even just give us the title so we can find it. It's so concise and well said. Back in the 13th century, can't believe it.
Yeah, his stuff is amazing. It's just reading Rumi can part the clouds. Yeah, and you don't need to twirl while you read it. So the twirling dervishes come from Rumi would twirl, and then these would just flow out of his mouth as the story goes. He never sat down and composed poetry. They would just be spontaneous verbal poetry as he would twirl around the room. But I can post it with the video if people are interested in that, and with the when I post the practice as well. I'm not sure I actually have I have so many of these little tidbits around that sometimes I don't actually have the source, but I've found if you just type the poem into Google, it actually finds the source for you. So that's another way that I can do it. But yeah, it is beautiful. The way he put that is the place of patience. It's our place of patience. What did he say? When I run around getting what I think I want, my life is like a furnace of anxiety and fear. I can't remember the other word. Yeah, furnace of, yeah, we're burning. The Buddha used that analogy a lot, of this sense of burning. When we're struggling with life, we feel like we're burning. And nirvana, of course, is the extinguishing of that fire, that furnace.
I have one thing. Some things came up, and thanks so much, Stephen. It's great to be here with everybody too, and with all the lovely people online. Thank you. Yeah, that was a really excellent meditation and talk. And a couple of things came up for me during the meditation. One was when you said, just notice the bare awareness. And what came into my mind was like, BEAR, bare awareness. And I was like, well, yeah, and then well, it's kind of the opposite of bare awareness. Normally we're in this bare awareness mode where we're like thinking that everything, this is like what samsara is. Thinking that everything in the world is a bear that's going to kill us. We're in bare awareness mode. Whereas what we, through the practice, we can get into bare awareness mode, which is, I thought that was a good way of looking at it. And I mean, there's the dukkha, like you said. I mean, but that's actually probably the, the real bears that are going to come, eat you for dinner. And then you have all the other whatever, like you said. So that came up. And then another thing you said was, when you mentioned you were talking about bringing or shining awareness on the breathing, and then you kind of went through and through different aspects of experience, and then you got to mind, and you said mind, and I thought you were going to say minding the mind, because it's kind of what you're saying, but you switched to thoughts thinking themselves. And what came up for me at that moment was, wow, mindfulness, sati, which is the Pali word for, well, it's been translated into mindfulness, but one of the translations is remembering. But I just thought what can also be reminding. It's like we're actually totally out of our big mind, and now it's in those moments of mindfulness we're coming back into it. And I just thought, oh, that's really, really. I don't know. I'm not a Pali or a Sanskrit. Like I know some of the words, from reading and from listening to your teaching, but that almost hits the nail a bit more on the head. So I think sati or mindfulness, but a reminding in terms of mind is, minding, because the mind is just minding, and that's really what it is. That's really, I mean, the minding is really everything. Everything is just a big, huge mind. And the other thing was the control. You talked about control. I like that we went into that, because for me, control is what the ego wants to control, but so the ego is the illusion of control. and once that illusion of control, once it's kind of deeply seen past, then there's no control, but that's when there's no suffering. The total letting go of control. There's no, it's like, and I feel like, okay, total letting go of control. This must be kind of at the source of at the source of nirvana, and at the source of the whatever went into making this kind of big thing, whatever it is that we live in. It's not even a thing. It's just you can't really say, there's no word. We say words so we can talk, but to each other. Anyways, I just think that the control thing is so, yeah, living in that state of just no control is that's true control, which is our true nature, but it's no control. It's the true control of no control.
I like your bare awareness. Bare. I think there's a poem there, Jason. Bare awareness.
Yeah,
you aware of all the bears we're trying to control. Well, our time is up. Just before I say goodbye, I've got these cards that I had made like 15 years ago, and I got little stickers and put it over the old address, and then whited out, or blacked out Wednesday night, because it used to be on Wednesday night. So I'm going to make these available for people to put, I don't know, in your yoga studios or wherever you think there might be people that would be interested in coming to these groups, because I think the groups we're doing right now, the sessions are very accessible for people to come into at this point, because we're speaking at different levels and topics that interest most meditators. So yeah, so I'll make these available for people online. If you want some, let me know, and I'll figure out a way to get some to you, either through the mail if you're in Toronto, or leave them for you. So yeah, so that's that. And thanks everyone for coming, and it's great to see you, and see you next week.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Stephen.
Thank you very much.
Thanks everyone.
Good. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Stephen. Good to see everybody. Have a good week.
You too.
Bye.
Yeah, happy Halloween, everybody's coming in.
Yeah, happy Halloween. Yeah.